for those who are going to be watching, following this up on video, and for those who are watching live, we are doing this transformation 6-week journey together. What I ask is that if you miss the live video, you watch this and then you do the action steps and then you post on Telegram when you've done it to keep each other accountable. It's going to be an exciting group. Before I start, let's address very rapidly Sosa's. Let's explore what it was for Sosa. So he set a cool goal, which seemed to be high on his priority list, but yet followed through 2 out of 7 times. So I'm going to ask him some questions, whether it was from his being, from his doing, or from the achieving aspect, which blocked his flow. So let's ask him now, Sosa, you did it 2 out of 7 times. Why do you think it was? What do you think the blockage was? Was it because you hadn't secured an area of your life? That is, you had another area of your life which wasn't secured. Could have been time management, work, could have been something else. Was it an inspired issue? Was it the fact that you weren't actually truly inspired to do it? Or was it directed? Did you not actually have the plan to be able to do it, the blueprint? Or was it that you didn't execute because you didn't have the habit built in? What do you think it was for you?
It's definitely the directed and the habit.
Right. Okay, cool. So now so this is a great thing that we've just discovered for Antonio, because we can tell that it's not because his life wasn't secured, right? Most people, like for me to adhere to my micro goal over the weekend, it was because I wasn't secured. My physical had become compromised, right? But for Sosa, he was secured. He was inspired. He truly wants to do it, but he didn't have this in plan. So what was it about your blueprint and your habit that you didn't have dialed in, where you didn't adhere to your goal?
I think what I need to do is I have a spreadsheet where my goals are supposed to be. Then I am realizing I don't check that. I stopped checking it. So I have not been directing myself generally in other areas. I have my habits, but there's no aim or there's no target. So I'm realizing one thing that I do check every day is my journal. So I think I'm just going to have to put, like, this is helping me realize I probably have to just put my goals in my journal, because I don't look at them and I forget about them. And I might start off like tonight and tomorrow pretty good off the gate, but then I will forget and I'll just not prioritize it. So I think it's having a blueprint and an evaluation process that I need to put in.
Yeah, so we can see the 2 steps that can easily take Sosa from a 2 out of 7 week to a 7 out of 7 week would be this. It would be the blueprint as in exactly what he has to do to track his macros. He's got to know exactly what to do, and it should only be like 5 minutes. And also a built-in reminder when he does his habits. A key trick you can use is habit chunking. So when he does his journaling, which he does every day religiously, he simply chunks in, oh, I track my macros. So I journal my life, but I also journal my nutrition. And it just goes boom, boom. And a 2-step process, he just chunks a habit from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, but all of a sudden it's done. And that becomes automated in his life, right? So he'll have to spend about a week to transition to get used to that, maybe 2 weeks. And all of a sudden it'll be part of his life, and he'll start getting the lag measures of a new body composition because he's tracked his macros. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm writing those notes down, create a blueprint.
Okay. So it's a really simple trick, but today what we're going to explore is the bigger picture, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen. We're going to start with the foundation of brokenness and oneness. And what we're going to find out is, what is brokenness to you and what is oneness to you? But let's explore the bigger picture first. This is pretty much, imagine all of the greatest things that the self-help gurus have taught involved in this one page here. Right? This is all what it comes down to. Everything they teach you about self-development, self-improvement actually exists in this page here. And so the first thing that you have to do is project the fruit of what you're doing. Then you have to develop self-awareness through self-assessment. Then you have to identify your highest priorities in your life. Then you have to be able to manipulate pain and pleasure, which differentiates you from the animal kingdom. You're able to project pain and pleasure. Then you have to transform your beliefs about what's truly possible. Then you need to create a vision. Then you need to create a plan, which is the TRG. then you need to use the GPS tracker. And funnily enough, with Antonio, all we had to do for that last one was work on his TRG and which is blueprint and his GPS, right? Because everything else was on track in terms of getting his body on track. Any questions so far?
That's brilliant. So are you, for the outline, is this also kind of an outline for the next 6 weeks?
Yeah, this is the outline for the next 6 weeks of what we're going to be covering.
And this can apply
Okay.
to you too, Hector. It can apply to anybody watching the video, the recording. For my brother, it was working out. So apply whatever Gus is teaching to whatever your goal is.
Yeah, these are all meta truths and principles. So I can literally use this for my health, for my relationships, for any little area of my life. You're going to apply these principles and you'll get amazing results. Okay. So let's just read a bit together on the purpose of life, and then we'll unpack this. So who wants to take care of the first paragraph, and the next person can follow on with the second one?
I could.
Sure.
Okay. Purpose. What is the purpose of life? This age-old question has been around since the inception of time. People have varying responses. Some say there is no meaning. Others say the meaning is in your heart. Others say is a religion, and stills. Others say you must create it.
And ignite.
Should I read the rest of it?
We can alternate.
Sosa, you can carry on. Alternate, yeah.
Yeah. In Ignite, we are looking at overarching meaning of existence for individuals across time. We are, in essence, we are looking at the meta level meaning of human existence. In a sense, the North Star of meaning for human existence.
Carry on.
For as many different mission or purpose statements exist, one overreaching theme seems to emerge: oneness. Whether it's to bring peace, justice, inspiration, adventure, end slavery, end apartheid, and the list continues. They ultimately serve a greater purpose. That purpose is ultimately to create a sense of alignment or oneness within that individual.
If there is unrest within that individual, it may come from many angles, such as physical, emotional, relational, financial, intellectual, career, living environment, or existential.
Therefore, what people are seeking ultimately is their vision of oneness and to avoid their vision of brokenness. Oneness consists on 3 levels of existence: being, doing, and having.
Absolutely brilliant. So before I carry on, I want to get you guys feedback on what you picked up from what you just read there.
I love it. It boils down truly, yeah, what oneness and the purpose of life really is.
To me as well, pretty awesome here, because oneness also to me means that oneness with people, your environment, nature, and having that equal love for it all. Because my mantra in life is that love is the greatest thing in every sense and meaning, and to be one with yourself and nature and your surroundings and others, it's the highest level of love, probably.
I love what you're saying, Hector, and it's so true. So all of life, whatever happens in life, is to get us back into balance, back into our authenticity. Every problem that we have physically, every problem that we have emotionally, every problem that we have relationship-wise is a sign to get us back into authenticity. When we're stepping outside of our authenticity, we're stepping outside of our oneness. And when that happens, life is a reminder to get us back into it. So when you try and be something you're not, life will give you a reminder that you're being something you're not, and you'll feel discomfort within or discomfort without, right? The idea is life's trying to seek us back in. The cool thing about this is that oneness means different things to different people. So everyone has a different mission on the surface at the micro level, but everyone has the same mission at the macro level. And this makes so much sense when you see it through this lens, that every soul is seeking back to get alignment with themselves. But every soul usually gets out of alignment with themselves during their development. They have to transition out of love from their parents to get love to their peers, to get love from their significant other. So they have to become something different every time, but they have to often make compromises to get this love from different fields. But ultimately, they lose love and touch with themselves. So the whole seeking, the first part of the meaning is to get oneness within, right? Let's explore the oneness at different levels. And so this is the model of brokenness. So it's often helpful to see it in the opposite way. So when we see the first thing, you've got being. So if our being is dejected or we've got a poor being within, what's going to happen on the next layer? If you're feeling at odds with yourself, what's likely to happen at the next layer?
Your doing is off. If your being's off, then your doing's not going to be as good.
Exactly. So what we see here is that the doing will spiral out of control because have you seen that or ever felt that in yourself? You've gone through a period where you haven't felt 100%. You've actually felt unworthy and you actually spiral into this doing, which just produces poor actions.
Yep.
Right. And then what happens then if you start feeling bad and you start doing bad, what happens at the third layer?
You'll have terrible results.
So we look at, in this case, this person feels awful. They end up not seeing any value. Now they have to go out begging, right? Okay, this is using an extreme example, but you can imagine someone that feels unworthy, so they don't take any good actions to back up how they feel, but they show it through gaming and eating pizza. They've got nothing of value to offer. Eventually, kick down the street, they're going to beg, right? That's the extreme version of what happens. You feel poor within, you do poor actions, you get poor results, right? That's very extreme, but poverty within produces poverty without. Any questions on that so far?
Very sweet, very cool, matter of fact, down to earth way to kind of encapsulate such a important thing that people just don't always keep in their forefront of doing, you know, or like thinking, you know, people just do things sometimes without being super aware of what they're actually doing every day. And then they wake up 10 years and realize they're not where they exactly wanted to be.
100%. And because often the being is too hard for people to fix, they try and put all the focus on the doing or even the having. They try and get external results really fast, right? And that's the kiss of death. And you see all these celebrities end up taking their lives because they didn't really focus on the being. They went straight to the doing and the having, thinking that would produce happiness, that would change their being, but it never does. An extra $100,000 in the bank isn't proportional to the amount of more emotion you can feel, right? We know that from the scientific studies that people's happiness cap off after their base needs are covered and a bit above. And when people earn more money than that, it makes no difference to their relative happiness. Yet they get more and more wealth and accumulation over here. All right, so ultimately, right, you've got on the bigger layer, so these are all the different areas of life, you can see that the being, the doing, and the having, and often people will always focus on the having and the doing, right? So now what we want to do is unpack, what if we would reverse that and we would look at the model of oneness? What do you notice on this one?
That being is positive.
Being can be positive, being can be negative, but if you can focus on your being, if you can get that, what's likely to happen at the next layer of doing?
Since Antonio's not speaking up, I'll answer it again. But yeah, I meant it like in this being model, it's a positive one to be specific. And then if you're being, like if the way I guess you're feeling is positive, then your doing would be positive as well. And the actions you would be doing is very positive.
And that's exactly what we see here. So it's literally from the inside out. Whatever you see on the outside world is being created within first, right? So we create the being, you're feeling good, you're feeling positive. Are you more likely to do positive things? Totally, right? And so ironically, people think, oh, if I'm happy, if I'm content, I'm not going to get out and take any action because I'm not going to be motivated. But that's not what the science says. People that are happy, yes, motivation can come from discontent, but it's not necessarily sustainable motivation because you'll never reach the end of happiness. But if you can focus on at least contentment within, you'll actually find that people actually still produce abundant actions on the outside. And that will naturally result in the negative. Okay, which is the having. And we see from the bigger picture here, once you're secured, inspired, and directed, that's all part of your being, which is what we worked with Antonio, worked on as directed, then we worked on as doing, and then the achieving comes automatically. Does that make sense? And this is for every area of your life, whatever you want to create. So what we're doing in this session is we're going to find out what brokenness looks like in your life, which parts are broken, and which parts are one, and what oneness, what your ultimate version of oneness looks like in your life. Sound exciting?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want you guys to write down is this. So we're going to define brokenness and oneness. We're going to create your goalpost. What is your definition? So this is Ignite's definition. You can write this, but you can also write your own if something's going to trigger you more. But what do you think that word in the middle there is? Brokenness is being at
war with yourself.
Okay, yeah, you can write that in. What would you say to that one, Hector?
The second one, oneness is being in. Brokenness. Yeah, oneness is being at peace with myself. Aligned with myself.
Perfect. You could say oneness is being in harmony with myself. Oneness is being in alignment with myself, in being, doing, and achieving. Right. Anything that resonates with you, you want to get the word. But the purpose here is that brokenness should equal the fact that you're at odds with yourself. Right. So brokenness is at odds with myself. Whatever word typifies that. But what I'll do is I'm going to send out the PDFs so people can actually write these in the booklet, but you want to make this your own. But this is the place to start. We need the definition of what brokenness is, right? Why
took me a second to sorry. No.
You carry on.
But yeah, no, it took me a second to find the right word because I didn't want to just say whichever word for that one. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's important. But this is the foundation of where we're going to start with the Ignite Transformation course. You have to have the definition of what brokenness is to you and the definition of oneness. That's why we started with the purpose of life. This is the bigger picture that everyone has. So this is when we zoom out, because a lot of people get really worried they can't find their purpose and they get too freaked out. They compare themselves with, Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King or Elon Musk, and they go, my purpose isn't that significant. The point is not to start at the big purpose of what the world sees. The purpose is to start at what we all can relate to, which is oneness, being aligned. When you find that alignment, your external purpose will become obvious. But you've got to start with what makes sense. If you're not being true to you, there's no point in trying to find this big grandiose purpose. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're running away from yourself, don't think you're just going to find your purpose in something external to you, right? It won't last. It'll only be a band-aid solution to what you haven't dealt with internally. All right, so on this page, so you don't have to do this now, I think, because we'll put this in the video, but basically you want to actually write down. So we're just going to, for the sake of the video, we're going to mouth this out and you have a chance to write this up. So what does brokenness mean to you? Let's start with you, Antonio.
Means living just for pleasures, dopamine, cheap, like just feeling disgusted with yourself, just feeling like a blob, gray, depressed, nothing good.
And Hector?
Brokenness would be selfishness, taking for granted, not counting your blessings, not finding passion in what you're doing, whether it's significant or not. Brokenness is, I want to talk about oneness to talk about brokenness, but the last thing that came to mind was, thinking that every action is insignificant would be broken, but every action is 100% significant, as minor as it seems. That's probably what I would think oneness would be too, being very aligned with your actions and energy, because energy is limited.
Great. And can you see what's cool about there is you have different emphasis on what brokenness is. And this is the cool thing about everyone can relate to it differently. And that's why it's important to write down what it means to you. So for me, brokenness is alignment with myself. It is to stop caring. It is to have disempowering beliefs. To have a negative mindset is to have disempowering thoughts, is to stop loving myself, is to stop loving others, is to stop loving life. That to me becomes brokenness. How motivating is it to avoid that life of brokenness?
Very.
Yeah,
So now, you carry on.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like the whole game of life, in my opinion, is just really figuring it out and figuring out the purpose. And I feel like in my life, I've been able to really feel like just that alignment, really focusing on just being at harmony with your mind, body, soul. That's all.
That's awesome. So now we're going to look at what does oneness mean to you. So I want you to think specifically for your life. If you had a life of oneness, what would that mean in every area? And think of every area, I mean in being, doing, and having. What would oneness mean?
To me, it would mean just remembering what you're chasing at every moment in time, to make sure that you utilize that time like the gift that it is for everything in your life, to just grow and be a better person, to make a better impact in whatever it is you're trying to do.
Awesome.
I have the cheat codes because I heard you say this once, Gus. Oneness looks like effortless, fulfilling fruitfulness.
Yeah, the highest form of oneness I call fusion. When you have fusion with the external and the internal world, you get fused, so it matches. So what you feel on the inside gets matched to your external, and you're at the highest level of fusion.
Oh my gosh, that's
Right.
mind blowing.
But that's not to say you can't feel fulfillment and abundance on the process, and it's really important distinction. Okay, there are levels to oneness, but I'm just saying at the fusion level, you experience it matches, but you don't need that to feel oneness within, right? Oneness within is separate. You can get that even if you're in prison in the deepest state, even if you're in the Madagascar prison. Now, if you want a scary documentary, look that up on YouTube, and you'll shudder to see, and you'll be so grateful with where your life's at. But even if you're in the Madagascar prison, where literally you can't get any sleep because you're sleeping next to bodies that are physically next to you, and once an hour they tell your body to turn over so everyone can turn over at the same time, and then you're up, they ring the bell at 5 o'clock, you've got to get up. That's another level. But my point is that, you can still, even in the worst circumstance, you can feel oneness with them, right? But fusion is at another level, and that's what we're going to look at here. This is the ultimate pyramid of oneness. So the first, you can see that which layer of being, doing, or achieving is the first three layers related to.
The first three layers are being.
Right. And why do you think they're under being?
Because it's things that are internal.
Exactly. They're in the unseen world, right? So secured is like your environment. It can be your living environment. It can be your thoughts within. It can be your finances. It's all stuff that should have been set up outside of life, right? You can't try and quickly change that in one moment, right? That's all part of the system you're breathing in. So that's part of being secure. That's all in the unseen realm. That's done off outside of life, so to speak, outside of your daily life. Inspired, that's being, because that's you, that's your spirit coming alive. That's you wanting to seek after what you want to achieve in life. And directed are your beliefs. It's your blueprint. It's how you're going to get there. And that's in the unseen realm as well. So those are the three most powerful things. But which level do you think most people put their focus?
On the top.
Yeah. And what kind of emotional states does it create when people put all the emphasis on the top?
Well, I'm cheating. Is it bliss?
Yeah.
That's a cheat guess. Okay.
No, totally. It can do manipulation, domination, cheating, lying, stealing, blowing themselves out physically because they feel inadequate, because they haven't secured themselves, from a self-esteem point of view. So they overexert themselves to get more sales. Then they feel like they're burnt out, and then they skip work for a week trying to recover. They boom bust all the time, boom bust, right? Because they haven't secured one of their layers down here, or they haven't got the right plan, which is unseen. So the being's really important, but most people put no emphasis on the being because it's not here and now. I can change right now what I execute. I can try and get into flow state, and I can change my results. I can change what my report card says by scribbling this out. I can change my CV by writing in some lies. Everyone can change these things that looks much easier to change on the surface, but they're not willing to change what really makes the difference long term. That makes sense?
Yep.
So what we're doing right now is we're really looking at truly the foundation, brokenness, oneness. But this is the pyramid. That's how in 2 minutes I found out what was happening for Sosa, exactly where his hiccups were. So when he resets his goals this week, we're going to apply this new and we'll see how he goes. And whatever happens, if there's another blockage, we'll find out where that blockage is. But we've got him one step closer to following through on his highest priorities, because he still acknowledged it, that it's one of his highest priorities is his composition. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So how powerful does this look at the moment, now that you can see how this all works together?
If I may, but the fact of the matter is that this is what I've needed to be hearing, because it's what I've subconsciously been knowing, that when I have occasional, maybe once or twice a year, days of reflection. And in those days of reflection, it's almost like my alignment days. And when I have those days, I know that when I'm at harmony with myself and I'm valuing my time better, that I will be a healthy and wealthy and extremely happy person. I'm extremely wealthy, or I'm extremely happy in pursuit of health and in pursuit of my wealth. But I do know on my days of reflection that those are the things I need. And when you said that once you're at one, everything fuses together because you're at harmony. And how I was talking about time before, you're utilizing that time for all positive things in your life versus negative things.
Brilliant. I'm so happy you've got that insight, because that's exactly right. It's true that people spend most of their time compensating with how bad they feel by putting too much effort into execution. If they work harder, they're going to feel better. If they work harder, they'll get peace. They keep working, or if they get the positions they want, they can live the life they think they've always wanted. Right? So people are always overcompensating because they think it's too hard to look within, or they don't know how, or they don't know how to get the oneness within. But if we just look down at the three aspects of being, you've got secured, inspired, directed, right? So let's look at the F's. So the first level, if you just get fortified emotionally, spiritually, living environment, financially, you take yourself out of the rat race, right? For a start, the rat race emotionally, the rat race. Then you've got the right to live a fulfilling life. You can decide what will fulfill you. You can follow your highest desires, not out of reaction, okay? Then the blueprint only matters then. Then you've got a real desire to create a fruitful blueprint. That's what's really important, to begin with the end in mind and get a proven blueprint that will produce the results. Only then does focus and execution really make sense, because then you can focus on the blueprint that'll make a difference. Then you can enter flow state with the knowledge and the peace that you can flow on a plan that will get you the results. And then that's when fortune happens. And that's what I talk about. The highest level of oneness is when you experience fusion. When you're in that rhythm of your being, doing, and achieving is all in alignment. You're getting the results, you're feeling great, but also you're taking the actions that are in your sweet spot of life. And that's called fusion. That's the highest level of Ignite oneness, right? But the big thing I want to say in this session is you can feel amazing now. You can feel one within now. You don't have to wait till fusion, but they're just higher forms and levels of oneness. Okay, is that encouraging to hear?
Oh yeah, I vibe with that because I feel extremely happy, but it's just I need to connect one or
Okay.
two more things.
That's awesome. So we're going to wrap this up in a sec, but I'm just going to give a wee heads up for next week, because next week Salsa will most likely be running a session. If not, we'll have another plan. But I just want to go over what's going to be coming up next week, because I know this is a lot to download and digest. But the action step today is to go away this week and just answer 2 questions. And I want them written down and then posted on Telegram, which is, what does brokenness mean to me? And what does oneness mean to me? Written down, posted. That's all you need this week. And then I'll just give a heads up of what's coming in a week's time. You're going to have a chance. Salsa should be taking you through the complete. You're going to rate yourself in being, doing, and producing on your key 9 areas of life: your vision, your physical, your intellectual, your spiritual. So we're going to do a whole audit of your life, right? In producing, proacting, and perceiving, and results, actions, and being. We're going to find out where you are, and it's going to be on that scale of +5 to -5. So it's going to be really fun. We're going to take a deep dive. This will give you unbelievable self-awareness as to where your life's currently at. Does it sound exciting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's what we'll get to next week. And then the week after, we'll teach you literally how you can find your highest priorities. We will identify what your highest priorities are within this, and that'll start giving you real direction about where you want to channel your energy in your life. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let's get into Kaizen and we'll wrap up. How does that sound, Sosa?
This sounds great. Really appreciate the lesson and the time, Gus.
Thank you.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
You're
I needed
welcome.
it.
So the 4 questions are, which I'll let Salsa, well, I mean, I might as well do it because I'm leading the session. But so the first question is, what was most enjoyable about this session?
What was most enjoyable is talking about truth, talking about this strong knowledge that moves my life forward every single time.
And for myself, this is the catalyst of me beginning to do the things that I've been wanting to. Number 1 is just simply jogging every day to start my working out path. So this is exciting because today's going to be my day 1. I was going to say tomorrow morning, but I could do it today, 100%. But morning's usually from now, but I'm going to start it off today.
Well, you've already preempted the 3rd question, which is going to be our action step for the week. Second question is, what was the most helpful insight today? What did you learn? What was the most helpful learning?
For me, it was definitely just asking me the questions, what's blocking me? And then realizing, putting the mind energy, oh, I need a better plan and a better blueprint. So simply that.
And for me, it's the solid clarity of understanding how to unblock it. This is like in my vision, or something that just came to my mind. This is like a very matter of fact, black and white way to like unblock chakras almost. It seems like by being secure in yourself and by proceeding forward, it's like you're able to just pull out the weeds of where you're blocking yourself mentally and spiritually to pursue what you want.
And on that, when you do unblock the different chakras, you'll find an amazing release of energy. It happens automatically. You don't have to keep searching after some magic pill. It's just oftentimes removing the blockages will get you the flow of oneness being for a start. And the oneness doing will take care of itself, and then you'll be achieving abundantly. What was the most surprising thing that you came across today?
Your definition of oneness, and purpose, that was really powerful paragraph. Like, gave us a simple, relatable definition that everybody, can vibe with.
And I like that you hit on that because I want to compliment the pyramid of oneness, as that gives such a clear understanding on just our operation system as a human. We do what we we do what we do in our lives because of what we think we are and who we think we are. And that's a very crystal clear way to put it in a matter of fact, digestible sense. Very, very nice.
Yeah, and that came to me, my life's work came to me at 3 o'clock one morning in New Zealand. I got this vision of everything I'd learned in this pyramid. And I was like being told to write everything down. And then it just came to me in blocks. This block, that block,
Wow.
that block, that block. Okay, now I see it. But it took that experience to really unpack all this.
Nice.
Because my intuition was saying go there, but my brain was no, you've got other things to carry on with. But I kept following my intuition. I was like, okay, no, this is what I'm gonna go with. And then it all just made sense to me. And then in my practice, it really helps. So the final thing we're going to end with is, now this is going to be fun for Sosa, but what's the one thing that we're committing to? What's your daily habit that you're committing to this week? Obviously, the action step for everyone is to write a definition of oneness and brokenness, or what it means to them, and post it on Telegram. But what's the one thing also that we're committing to this week for our personal lives? Sosa.
I'm gonna set up reminders and put it into my routine, my morning routine that I do every single day. So now I'm gonna add this to it and it's gonna get done.
For myself, definitely jogging at least 15 to 20 minutes per day. And I was gonna throw in another one, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, cool. For me, it's just to continue this one leading indicator, which is to map out my nutrition plan each day. When I do that, I'm more likely to hit my calorie deficit every day and lose fat. So just keep on my plan and then keep my lessons flowing. Because if you don't plan it and you don't measure it, you can't learn, you can't manage it. So then you're flying blind. So anyway, so it's similar to solstice, but I want to carry on with that. So just a shout out to everyone. So, you know, if you want individual coaching with me, feel free to message me on WhatsApp or Telegram, get a hold of me and we can go from there. Anything else to add, Sosa?
Guys, for the ones watching on YouTube afterwards, definitely drop a comment, see what the answers are. But for the ones part of the Telegram group, I'll be following up with everybody to make sure we all stay on track with lesson 1. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday, 7:45. See y'all later.
Adios.
Have a good night.
Later, Hector.